Today I'm going to share an easy and super simple baby quilt. This quilt can be made in just a day. Lately I have been drawn to simple neutral colors, so I went to my stash and I pulled out 8 half-yard cuts of cream and kind of beige colors. I cut those down into 5-inch squares, and those are used to make half square triangles that are 4.5 inches. Do you ever feel drawn to certain colors at certain points in your life? I feel like right now I've been really drawn to neutrals. They're just so beautiful, so simple, and so calm and peaceful. And I feel like that's the perfect contrast to the chaos that is going on right now. I also pulled from my stash a 1-yard cut of fabric for the corner triangles, the set-in triangles, and the border for this quilt. All of the cutting information and fabric requirements are in the description of this video. I'm telling you, this is so easy to put together. So the only thing we're going to need to prep is those half square triangles I mentioned. So I'm just going to take 2 fabrics here that are different. I'm not even stressing about which one should pair together. I just keep grabbing 2 different ones and then I make the half square triangles. So I have 2 here, and on the lighter of the 2, I'm going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner. All right, next, place the 2 fabrics right sides together, line them up well, and then I'm just going to sew a 1/4 inch seam along each side of that diagonal line. Okay, so next we're just going to cut along the diagonal line. And now I'm just going to start finger pressing the half square triangle. So I've just been pressing the seams on these half square triangles open. It'll reduce a lot of bulk because we're going to have a lot of fabric seams coming together at certain points. And so I feel like this will just help reduce bulk and it'll make it easier for quilting later. So I'm going to press those open. Now press the seam with an iron. And now the last step is to trim your half square triangles down to perfect 4.5 inches. So I'm just going to line my trimmer up so that the etched diagonal line is right on the seam. And then I'm just going to trim around this. So I have one trimmed, and now I'm just going to trim this other one. All right, and so now both triangles are perfectly trimmed to 4.5 inches. And now you'll just do those same steps over and over, getting all of the half square triangles complete that you need for your quilt. After completing all of the half square triangles, it's time to bring the quilt together. And to do that, I like to first lay out my quilt top. So I'll start laying out the half square triangles on point with the corner triangle and the set-in triangles, get all my rows together so that I can start sewing the quilt top together. When I start laying things out, I like to start with my corner triangle, and then I'll start adding in my half square triangles. And I'm just going to lay them out in just a random way to get things started. Just making sure I'm using different half square triangles that have different fabrics on them. So you see I have some laid out, and here is where those set in triangles are going to go. And here's what's nice is the set in triangles and the corner triangle are going to help bring the border together. So the border is going to go around after I get everything sewn, and the corner triangles and set in triangles will just melt into the border. After getting the quilt laid out, I start sewing the rows together. And the rows on a quilt like this that is on point gets sewn together on the diagonal. So I always like to start in a corner and I put the corner triangle on first. First, I need to find the center of my half square triangle. So I'm going to fold it in half and I'm going to press to get a crease there in the center of the half square triangle. And then I'm going to do the same with the corner triangle. Fold it, press, and get a crease to find the center. Now I'm going to place these right sides together, line up those creases, and sew a 1/4 inch seam. All right, I went ahead and pressed that seam as well. And now we're going to add on the set in triangles. And this is a little bit easier because we're just going to put that triangle lined up right with the sides of that half square triangle. You're going to have a little bit of overhang on the corners of the triangle, and that's what you want. But the main thing we want is that when we lay this triangle right sides together, it is lined up with the half square triangle. All right, so I have that all pressed, and we're going to do the same thing with the other side. I have the seam all pressed, and now we have one corner of this baby quilt completed. And so now we'll just start sewing all the rows together. So here is the next row, and I'm going to start with the set in triangle and sew it on, and then I will sew on each square in this row. Here is one row finished. I'm going to go ahead and add the corner on. So for the corner, you can just go ahead and line it right up with the square. So the half square triangle, line up with the half square triangle, and then get this nice and even. Now just look how beautifully that is coming together. So I'll just keep building the rows just like that to complete the whole quilt top. Once the quilt top is complete, I'm going to trim around, and where all the points are, I'm going to measure 1/4 inch away and trim around before adding on my borders. Once I sew the borders on, I'll be able to baste my quilt. I like to pin base my quilt. It just works the best for me. And then I'm going to quilt it. To quilt my quilt, I'm just going to sew along each side of the seams around all of the half square triangles. I really think simple quilting like that will really highlight the simplicity and peaceful beauty of this quilt. After quilting, all I'll need to do to finish up the quilt is trim it up and then add on my binding. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you make this simple one-day baby quilt as well. See you in the next video. Bye.